You're listening to the Variety Sports Network, your home for the best sports podcasters and live shows.
And welcome to another episode of Talkin the Gridiron, Week 18. Gentlemen, we've made it all the way with me, and I got a guy here. He's been through a lot with me the whole way. We started out way back in August, joined us in the airport at one point, and now he's as confident he's rocking shades like that. My co-host here on Talkin the Gridiron, brought to you by at Variety or over at Variety Sports Network, Jimmy Pilato from Far End of the Bench podcast. I got Rev with me and Brian, but Jimmy, let's start with you. How you doing, my friend?
I am feeling good, man. Back-to-back AFC North champions, 3 seed in the AFC. We're hosting a playoff game. We're going to host 2 playoff games because one of the top teams are going to lose, so we're going to be able to go with this thing. I'm freaking stoked. These are the sunglasses you buy when you have a quarterback like Joe Burrow. I've known it since college. I bet against him in the national championship. I learned my lesson. He's been leading my team. We're back where we belong. I was thinking about this earlier today too. I was just sitting in my classroom because we had our work day before the kids came back. This is a pattern. They have a culture now. This is a pattern. I don't think this is a fluke anymore. Last season, everybody said it was a fluke. This season, it's the same exact thing, minus the 1 week that we all know what happened. It's the same exact finish. So I'm stoked. This is as good as I could feel.
This one we want to stoke Jimmy on the show. That's the one we want. We want the positive energy that we've had. We've had a few negatives throughout the year, so it's good to have you in that regard. Brian, it's good to have you back on the show, man. Playoff time. I know we'll get to your Niners a little bit. How we feeling?
I'm feeling great. We're the number 2 seed in NFC. We dominated the NFC West this year, and I feel awfully confident playing the Seattle Sea Chickens on Saturday.
He's right away going the trash talk, and I like it. We got a lot to get in here too on the show, but hey, we got a guest that we haven't had on a while here. He brings the knowledge as well. A Steelers fan. They almost snuck in there at the end, but we'll get his take on that as well. But Rev, it's good to have you back on the program, man. Like you said before, you jumped on. Perfect time. Thanks for doing it.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for bringing me back here. Decided to come right back around during the kind of the most exciting part of the season outside of maybe week 1 for maybe sorry NFL teams. But regardless, it came back around just in time for the playoffs. Nothing but rematches here, so interesting to see who's gone better, who's gone worse during their first matchups in the wild card. So I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Well, with that said, gentlemen, we got a lot to get into today. We're going to get into – we're not going to touch on all the games here, but we're going to touch on the big ones. We'll touch on – as we go through that, we'll hit on the playoff previews along the way. And I got some 2-minute drill questions for these guys like I always have to kind of get it ready to go. And then, of course, we'll finish it up with our winners and losers of the week. Gentlemen, I don't really know how to start this conversation unless we start with, Jimmy, we did the show Monday night, right? We hyped up the game, and then obviously all that happened, the incident happened there against your Bengals, like we said. I kind of want, just before we kind of go quickly onto the game, what did you guys think about the way the NFL handled it pretty well? He got released today. I saw earlier from the hospital, let me know if something else happened in that regard, but that was about a few hours back. I heard that. I don't know, Jimmy, what did you think of the way the NFL honored it and the way the players kind of all came together? Obviously, the medical staff, the big heroes here, and the first responders, and the way they just got it, just immediate success on every level. Just kind of your takeaway on just, I don't know, something we'll never seen before.
Never seen before. I was it's different. I was at a bar. We're getting ready to go to dinner, so I didn't even have the sound on the TV to even have a clue what was going on. All I see, guy makes a tackle, T. Higgins runs somebody over, Damar Hamlin falls backward. I didn't know what happened at first. In hindsight, looking back on how it was handled, probably the best stadium in the NFL to have something catastrophic like that happen to you, because they've had the experience of dealing with that before. Ryan Shazier, that was where his injury happened. Carson Palmer's injury happened. The hospital that they took him to is a level 1 trauma facility, which means they have all kinds, of specialists and staff on the clock 24 hours a day. So there wasn't a better place that he could have gone. The way the NFL, and I know that they're kind of fighting back and forth with some of the players that were talking. Apparently, they were like, okay, 5 minutes. You guys get to, wipe your faces, and we're going to go stretch. We're going to start the game back up. Thankfully, the coaches and the players, and that's what's been kind of the cool thing. They always talk about the brotherhood of the players, and you don't necessarily think about it, but there's guys all over the league that were not involved in that game last Monday at all. There's been guys like Tyler Boyd played and grew up in the same neighborhood as DeMar Hamlin. They're both from Pittsburgh. He was giving him a lot of love. There's guys from all over, and the way that game worked out too, that was just kind of poetic. It's one of those things that you like, that can't happen. Very similar to Fernandez, the pitcher for the Marlins, after he tragically passed away, and then D. Gordon comes up and hits a home run on the very first pitch of the next game. It's stuff that gives you chills. Seeing Josh Allen react to it the way that he did, like we talked about some of the leadership and some of the qualities that we've seen in these quarterbacks. That's a guy that gets it. He understands that this moment is bigger than the team. It was bigger than the game at that time, and thankfully, the people that were in power noticed that too. And the teams, the coaches, the training staff, I would say everybody. I'm not going to lump the NFL into this. You can argue with me on that all you want. I think they were bullied into it by the players, but everyone else besides the NFL, I would give, very high praise and hold them in very high regard with how that situation was handled, because we had the cardiac arrest in FIFA a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Chris Pronger got hit in the chest with a slap shot, had similar things happen, but it wasn't to the extent of this guy's going to the hospital. He has a breathing tube and he's not living by himself currently. And it was about a 24-hour period. We're like, is he going to wake up?
Yeah.
And that's scary. So kudos to them. And I think, it was handled in the correct way. Tyler beat me in the fantasy final because of it. I can't even gripe about it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it kind of, there's some other things that it affected, but at the end of the day, just glad to see that it seems to be going in the right direction.
And like you said, it's bigger than sports. And Rev, feel free to touch on that part as well. Then we'll get to Brian too on it. But I want to kind of move on as we're talking about that too, is what Jimmy kind of mentioned as well. Is like kind of just things are bigger than sports at moments, right? Like you said with D. Gordon, then sure enough, he returns that kick for 96 yards on just the opening play. Just a magical thing. You mentioned D. Gordon. I remember another baseball one where the Angels had a pitcher pass away, and then they threw a combined no-hitter. I mean, there's just crazy things like that in sports that don't always happen there. Rev, what was your thought in kind of the way the NFL handled it? Just kind of that play to start out the game as well. Just kind of just one of those moments in sports you can only get once in a while.
Yeah, so initially it would be very easy to get upset about the NFL's mishandling of the situation, considering they were just considering to go with the regular protocol. Like, you've seen people get paralyzed. We've seen people receive horrible injuries during games. And the normal routine is 5 minutes, group together, and then we're getting back out there. And it's easy to get upset at the NFL in the instance of someone nearly dying to the point where they needed 10 minutes of CPR, 10 plus minutes of CPR being done on them, and just assume that they'd be okay in 5 minutes. But ultimately, that's something that is very hard to prepare for. Like, we've seen people get paralyzed, but very rarely do you see someone's heart stop on the football field. So I give the NFL a little bit of slack, though I totally understand what Jimmy is saying there, and the fact that you can't just expect someone to regroup. But of course, something like that is going to create a lot of negative emotions. They'll create a lot of people don't know how to react to it. Sometimes you might see, we saw a couple people send some direct shots towards Skip Bayless's way for his tweet, but ultimately, I think something that was more important was the positivity that spread from it. Also, DeMar Hamlin's tour drive and how much is being raised there. It's good to see that despite there was some negativity and some angry emotions, which I totally understand, it was better just to see the greater good and to see people come together and, be hopeful for this person and also to donate to the kids who really need it.
For sure.
That Stephen A. Smith rant too that he went on, that's one of the best pieces of sports media I've seen in years. The way that he kind of put it really eloquently, the fact that we've been fighting with each other for the past 3 years, ever since we've got locked in our houses and all that kind of stuff. It like we've been saying, it transcended everything. And I think Stephen A. Smith put it in probably the best terms that I've heard so far.
Yeah, I thought ESPN did a good job covering that immediately after the game, too. That was crazy. Yeah, I think that what you said, Red, human empathy was on display this week. Yeah, like we never had seen before in that regard. All right, well, I guess like you said, we have a transition back to the game side of it. Buffalo with that 96-yard return on, just like we said, one of those sports plays, Brian. They end up beating the Bills 35-23. They they end up eliminating New England from the playoff. Going to Miami, they get in as a result. What do you think with the Bills heading into the playoffs? Like, obviously they have this thing that happened to them, and some people feel like it's now a massive advantage to them because it's just kind of this extra energy they get. What do you think about this game versus the Dolphins?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like all the emotions and everything from the Hamlin thing. It just felt like it kind of, pushed them even more in this game. And I feel like definitely it's probably going to help them in the playoffs even more because they're probably going to play, try to win games for Hamlin.
Do you give the Dolphins any chance in a game like this?
No. I
No.
mean, especially in Buffalo, I just don't. Especially if I guess Tua really hasn't gotten out of concussion protocol yet. So
yeah, no, that's for sure with that. What do you guys think, Jimmy? With the well, let's go to the Dolphins here. They end up beating the Jets 11-6 and just a barn burner, right? A good old barn burner there. They went 11-6. They'll end up facing Buffalo, like we just said. Do you end up giving the Dolphins any chance in like this? Some people are like, well, the division rival, third team. I don't know. What do you think? Some people said this was kind of an interesting matchup. I don't know if I'm going to bring in Josh as we do this, just by the way.
I don't know if it's that interesting of a matchup, but the three times in a season thing is real. And they split the games 1-1. Pretty much everything that you're going to see. But yeah, that would be the biggest black eye, like the biggest faux pas. Why would you have Tua play against the team who just had a guy almost die on the field when we saw Tua have a seizure and spiked into the turf? And we all know that he hasn't been okay since week 2, whenever the first concussion happened. We all know that hasn't been the case. So I don't know how that's even possible. They have a chance. That's why they play the games on Sundays. But right now I'm leaning heavily towards the Bills just with the personal vendetta, like the team of destiny thing. That's every team every year looks for a way to be the team of destiny, and this is going to be their way to be that team this year.
Yeah, and building onto that point, I know I'm going to sound like an upset Steelers fan when I say that the Miami Dolphins limped into the playoffs, but it's hard to give them a chance against a team in the Bills, in which honestly I think are Super Bowl favorites in my opinion, just simply due to what Josh Allen did last postseason. I think he's going to build off of that, and he's probably still got that playoff game in the back of his mind. They lost in overtime to the Kansas City Chiefs, so I really think that Allen and the Bills are going to be on a mission. As for the Dolphins, I'm kind of sort of hoping that Teddy Bridgewater at least is healthy enough to step on the field to make the game at least halfway interesting, but it's hard to see them not get outgunned just when you look at the momentum and where things are going. Like I said, they limped into the playoffs. They lost like 6 of the last 7 games. Don't quote me on that, but they've lost. They're until last week, they were on a major losing skid and just the lack of momentum. Whereas with Baltimore, with Buffalo, they're going to be extra motivated. They're going to have a quarterback who's going to be thinking about last year's postseason game, in addition to the motivation behind like rallying around DeMar Hamlin. That's just going to be too much fire.
No, I completely agree with that. It's just the division rivals, I think, kind of get a little overhyped, but it's a 7-2 at the end of the day. And I just feel like the Dolphins they just won't be able to score nearly enough points to keep with the Bills matchup. Josh Edwards of Variety Sports Network, his first ever time jumping here on Talking the Gridiron, or is this an accident, or are you there?
What's up, boy?
What's going on, my man? How we doing? What do we owe that? What do we owe the pleasure for?
You started drinking yet to celebrate the Colts season, Josh?
Is that how you got on here?
Okay. Well, no. The Colts are what the Colts are, and I'm not upset about it at all. It is what it is. I still got the Chiefs rolling, so Patty Mahomes might get it done again. I can only hope for that.
Paper number 1 seed.
We'll see. I want to see Chiefs Bills in the AFC Championship. That's what I want to see.
Neutral site.
And then I can't be disappointed at all because I like both those teams. I like Josh Allen since he was in college. I said when he was at Wyoming he was going to be something special in the NFL. I would love to see him beat Pat and then win the Super Bowl. I think it would be fantastic. But if those two make it, it doesn't matter to me. I got a good AFC Championship game, and then the Super Bowl doesn't even matter.
I like how you call him Pat. I like that. That's how I usually like. Those are my best friends. So I always call him by their first name there. I respect that. What were you going to say? You were coming on for a reason, though? What was that?
So I wanted to congratulate the Green Bay Packers on ending my season on a high note by totally throwing a game away and watching Aaron Rodgers lose and hopefully him never stepping foot on the field again.
Oh, yeah, they threw that game away yesterday, shoving trainers, punching people in the face, throwing forearms. Usually, you wouldn't expect that from a Green Bay-led team. But, yeah, I won't even lie. It was fun seeing the Lions finish with a winning record, with Dan Campbell. But in addition, just kind of seeing the Packers just implode the way they did last night.
It was beautiful.
It looked like Brian. Can I get Brian there just for a second? Brian, it looked like it was. I know you love ripping on the Packers. It looked like Rodgers was. Is he doing the Favre? Is he just saying bye every year now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like when he walked off the field that this is it for Green Bay, and it felt like he was either retiring or he was going to a different team. And hey, if I don't care if he retires or goes to another team because I'm not a Rodgers guy. I think he's a little too cocky, and he's I don't know. It seems like he always chokes in the playoffs.
Oh, Brian, I know that you love saying that. Jimmy, what do you think?
They need to have a team ayahuasca trip. They were too on edge. Aaron needs to take these guys. Let's go into the jungles in Peru. Let's clear our heads. Let's get all of the negative energy out of the room so that we stop punching trainers and the personnel that are there to help us. But that's he's just doing it for the attention. We all know this, right? He's just doing it for the attention.
He did this last year.
He did it for the last 2 years.
Yeah,
you gotta remember that. Nico's been begging for Aaron Rodgers for the past 2 years. This guy is built for drama. I don't know why we should just have he should have a reality show. That's the stage of his career that he's in. That Chad Ochocinco, since he can't fucking find a normal woman to settle down with, let's have Aaron Rodgers' Spiral of Love on VH1 because that's all this guy is good for and nowadays. I mean, this past season, he threw as many interceptions as he had the past 3 years combined. So it's definitely going downhill. Just give me some entertainment out of it. I kind of like watching the implosion. And I listen to another podcast. He has Sirius. He turns on the Green Bay sports radio after they get eliminated every season and just listens to them gripe and complain because that's all they have to do up there now that the NFL season's over. They just get to gripe and complain, and they're not going to draft another receiver next year. And Aaron's going to be a little bitch and dress up as Nicolas Cage to go to training camp again, or Shane Falco this time. He's going to learn how to play quarterback left-handed.
I forgot
about that's going to be a big thing. It's ridiculous. I hate it so much.
I forgot about that Nicolas Cage thing, man. I forgot about that.
I'm really just interested to see, I'm just interested to see how many times Aaron Rodgers could change his mind on whether or not he wants to retire in the next 6-7 months. Because I really think it's just an instance of him waking up one morning, thinking, "Oh, hey, I still got it in me," and then the next day it's like, "Well, looking at this Green Bay team, do I really want to come back to this?" So I'm just interested to see how many times he could change his mind back and forth and totally abandon his team during off-season stuff and ETAs and then just randomly show up halfway in the training camp. So I'm just going to tune in for the ride.
Hey, Josh, you said you were really happy about the Lions. Do you have any take on, or about the Packers? Do you have any take on the Lions side of it?
So I am secretly a closeted Lions fan because they always suck. So I always try to pick a team that's bad and root for them throughout the season because I like the underdog story. I love Dan Campbell. I think he is fantastic as a heart guy, as a builder. I don't know if he can be a long-term answer and build a dynasty or have a Mike Tomlin kind of career where he brings a team up and keeps them above 500 for 15 straight years. But I like who Dan Campbell is. He's the kind of guy, if I was a football player, I'd want to go play for. I would run through a wall for that guy. I love his attitude, his tenacity, his never give up, never die kind of attitude. He seems like he's a lot of fun. And so the last couple of years, I've kind of rooted for Detroit. I mean, I rooted for Detroit when Stafford was there, just because they were always on at Thanksgiving and stuff. So kind of a closeted fan, super proud of the team this year. I want to see them make the playoffs next year and see if they can do anything. Mostly just because I like to see things shook up. I'm looking forward to these playoffs because we got teams that we don't normally get to see. And I'm sure you guys are going to cover all that, so I don't want to jump too far ahead. But
Yeah.
I want to see Detroit in there next year. Maybe win the NFC North would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, right now that division is definitely up for the taking there in that regard. Rev, on the Lions, last week I asked Jimmy and the guys about, are you up on the Lions stock wise? I'm assuming you are, or you like me kind of where you're hesitant because of like just not sure of the Goff angle still, even though he played well this year.
Honestly, I believe Jared Goff solidified himself. Like when you really compare, even Jared Goff going back to or when he was with the Los Angeles Rams, you look at Jared Goff's best season when they went to the Super Bowl, it was very comparable to the 2020 season or the 2021 season that Matt Stafford had when they won the Super Bowl. You look at Jared Goff's worst years, it's very similar to the years that the year that Matt Stafford had this last season, where, you know, a lot of people are creating a huge discrepancy between a guy like Stafford and Jared Goff. And I'm not saying they're the same quarterback. Like with Matt Stafford's arm talent, I still might give him the edge, but they're trying to create this huge discrepancy as if Jared Goff didn't lead him to a Super Bowl, as if he just this garbage quarterback doesn't deserve to be a starter. And I think this year he proved himself to be a starting quality quarterback in this league. Maybe not a top 10 guy, but a guy that you could put in there and you don't cringe at the idea of it. So I think in terms of the short stock overall, though, they're really going to have to tighten up that defense because offensively things are looking impressive. They got a couple pass rushers. You know, my dad's alum, Jackson State. They got a guy, James Houston, from there who looked like a good pass rusher. Aiden Hutchinson had a fairly good rookie season. They got a couple helping the pass rush, but they really got to tighten up that defense. But offensively, they look great.
Yeah, no, they do. And Brian, we were talking about last week that with the Lions stock being up as well. They also have the 6th and 18th pick. So Brev mentioned defense is probably where they're going to address it. I'm assuming your stock's up on them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you got 2 first-round picks, you're gonna get 2 more good players from college. So
and now they don't have to trade for a quarterback. And now they don't have to trade for a quarterback at that point. That's good. Josh, I was going to keep it moving here. Are you going to stay on with us, or what's up?
Hey, I'll hang out for a little bit if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll keep it moving here. I was going to go to next here, you know, why we're all here, ladies and gentlemen. The Glasses himself in the center in my book here. We're going to go to the Bengals and the Ravens here. The Bengals end up winning yesterday against the Ravens 27-16. And probably, Jimmy, not the prettiest play game of all time by the Bengals in any regard, but they got the job done. The coin flip. I love it. The old days of Joe Horn getting out using props and Terrell Owens grabbing a head.
You know why he did that, right? Chad Johnson put it out on Twitter, said, I will pay any fine if you get it, but that's got to be something. That's the dumbest thing that they could have come up with anyways.
That'd be funny if the NFL fined Chad Johnson too, just because he used
he doesn't. He buys McDonald's for his food every day. He's got money to burn. I guarantee you that. No, that was – I'll be honest with you. I kind of fell asleep after the first half. It was boring. I knew it was going to be boring because that was going to be the matchup next week. Unless the Bills lost, which I did not expect them to. That was going to be who they played. So don't show anything. Prove that you're the better team by dominating them again. They're playing a third-string quarterback, so make it look like you're playing a third-string quarterback. Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard are two. Those two are what make our defense go. We're solid at all levels. Like our D-line is pretty solid on the edges and in the middle. Our linebacking core is pretty good. Our secondary, even though we lost our number one corner, our safeties kind of make up for that. And Cam Taylor-Britt's kind of stepped up in his rookie season, and I'm more than happy with what he's been able to do. Like I said at the beginning of the show, they have established themselves a culture. They might suck at the beginning of the season. I still blame that on Zach Taylor not playing starters in preseason. But they find themselves at some point, and then they just don't lose. Like they finished last season on a 6-game heater and won the division. They would have done the same exact thing this year. They won the division again. First time in franchise history that they're back-to-back AFC North champions. And Joe Burrow threw for the most touchdowns in a season in franchise history. So this is just getting better. Are you ending that? I wrote it here. Are you ending the Lamar Jackson era on this weekend? Is it over for sure? Are you worried at all in any way? Yeah, it's over. No matter how far they go, like they're going to have to pay so much. I just don't think that they're going to. Well, I mean, are you ending it this weekend? Do you feel confident your Bengals are going to kick their ass on this? If Lamar plays, I don't. It makes me a little bit more nervous because he's shown that he can beat us. But we showed that we could kick the shit out of him last season, and he has not played. in 5 weeks. He hasn't played in 5 or 6 weeks.
I got it here. Hasn't practiced since December 4th.
I was about to bring up that right there, that he hasn't practiced in over a month. Like what is he even going to come back? Has there even been a timeline? And even if he does come back, is he just going to look rusty? Like I would like the best version of Baltimore to come out there with Lamar Jackson. But what if it's just all rust, and it just goes back to how he looked in that first playoff game against Tennessee a few years back where they couldn't get anything done? Like I want to see him come back, but is it going to be the best Lamar?
That's my other thing too. I don't fear Lamar in the playoffs. I fear Lamar a hell of a lot in week 6 and week 18 if he plays against you. And that spin move that he has on Nick Vigil is going to haunt me as a Bengals fan for the rest of my life, where he didn't even touch him. Like Lamar Jackson spun so hard, the linebacker was right next to him, and he didn't even touch him on the tackle. So I fear him. He's like I said, he's a good quarterback to get you 40 yards and into field goal range. He doesn't throw touchdowns in clutch moments. He doesn't lead game-winning drives.
And can he run if it's a knee injury? You know what I mean? Like you don't fear him. Obviously, he's a pocket passer here. Brian, what do you think? Lamar Jackson. I know you're not the highest. What do you think of this game? Do you think the Bengals blow him out? You think it's a close game? I've been hearing talk about Harbaugh maybe moving on after the year. Maybe the Ravens. This game's worth more than we think. What do you think?
I just heard reports that maybe Lamar's not happy with the way the organization's going. So maybe he's just not rushing back for certain games because he really wants to go somewhere else. And like I said to you, Darren, I think that Miami's going to make a push for Lamar in the offseason. So, but what I have to say is I knew why NBC got this game because you got Chris Collinsworth. So it's going to be a Bengals fest. Get ready for it.
I'm here for it. I'll get it. I get it once a season. I'll take it. Give me all the Bengals in my face. Up in my face. Give it to me.
That's awesome. Josh, what do you think? You got Bengals or Ravens in this game?
I got the Bengals for sure. I think it's gonna be a closer game than we probably anticipated gonna be.
Yeah,
it's the division matchup. If Lamar's back, that gives a different dynamic to the Ravens offense. The Ravens just don't have enough weapons to get this game done. The Bengals are stacked. The defense is pretty good. So and you got Joe Cool over there on the sidelines. So I can't see the Bengals losing. Now I want to go back real quick to a comment. I don't know who made it about Lamar because I can't see anybody. But Lamar not being a pocket passer. Now I'm not high on Lamar Jackson at all. I don't think he should even be in the league. To be honest, as a quarterback, he should be a running back, a gadget man.
That's what
Taysom Hill, if you will.
Yeah.
But he has, over the last couple seasons, developed a better passing presence. And this is just me being honest from a guy who does not care for him as a quarterback. He can throw the ball better than he used to, especially in his rookie and his second season. He's not going to beat you with his arm, but if you leave him open areas and holes to throw through, he can now get the ball there where he couldn't in the years past. Now, I don't know if he'll do that this weekend, if he even plays, because he hasn't practiced since you guys said, December 5th? Mm-hmm. But he has the capability to get the ball into open windows. He can't throw somebody open, though. So I'm going to take the Bengals and Joe Cool, and Cincinnati moves on.
Well, Josh, I'm going to be honest. That's as harsh as criticism as you're going to have on Lamar Jackson as you can get in some ways. I mean, he won the MVP a few years ago. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong because
Darren, I haven't called him a quarterback all season.
No. But I mean, he said he should be out of the league without being a quarterback, and that's different than what you said. You said at least he should be maybe a quarterback, I think. Or did you say no?
No, he's never been a quarterback in my eyes.
Well, hey, give Baltimore.
He's a running back who throws.
And give Baltimore their credit for building an offense around a guy who's quote unquote not a quarterback. And considering his best receivers every season has been tight ends, I think he's doing quite well for himself.
That's the other thing. If Mark Andrews doesn't play, I think that the Bengals have the ability to shut Mark Andrews down with their linebackers. But not having him, if Lamar plays and he doesn't have Mark Andrews, he's not going to throw the ball. He doesn't complete passes to wide receivers.
And I think fair to to your guys' point, Jimmy and Josh, he throws 36 touchdowns, and he goes 26, 16, 17, like that. Now, obviously, some injuries, missed a few games here or there, but that's a pretty big drop off in that regard from that point on. So we all seem like we all have the Bengals in this game here. None of us seem confident enough to take the Ravens at all. All right, let's go to the next game here in the AFC. We had a real quick here that I'm going to give us an update here. The Jaguars, obviously, we know, beat the Titans on Saturday and 20-16, which now sets up a matchup with the Chargers and the Jaguars. Surprisingly, Johnson, they don't get the normal AFC South game in the morning. Your Niners do out of all the games. We'll get to that later here. But so the Chargers, Jaguars, I don't know what to say. It's a battle of the hair, the battle of the Sunshine States over here. We got the hair, the flow lock
The
here.
Flow Bros.
We could call it the luscious locks of
Luscious locks.
Jacksonville.
Head and shoulders should be all over this game. Who do you got, Brian, winning this game on Saturday night?
I got the Chargers. I think because I really would love to see the Chargers play the Chiefs in the divisional round, because I think that would be a hell of a game, because I think Herbert always plays Mahomes tough.
Yeah, no doubt. He definitely gives him his best games in that regard, except for a lot of people were like, what the hell happened with the Chargers this week with their coach playing their guys as much, and Mike Williams ends up having to limp onto a bus and getting help from his teammates in that regard. Josh, who do you got in this matchup?
I'm going with Jacksonville. Saxonville.
Well, that's what they needed to get a win against the Titans. They needed a sack fumble.
Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest game offensively. You saw them try to get cute in the red zone, fumble the ball with that little wide receiver reverse they ran up, overthrowing Zay Jones. So execution-wise, they kind of struggled in the red zone, and you have to wonder if that carries on into the playoffs. But I think right now they got too much momentum. And first time they played the Chargers, I believe they beat them 38-10. They basically – embarrass them in front of their own home crowd. And I think the next one's going to be, this game's going to be closer. They're a little healthier, although we gotta watch out what's going on with Mike Williams and Joey Bosa, who both kind of got banged up during that game. So you just have to worry about how healthy those guys are. But ultimately, I think they're going to play a more competitive game, but I still got Jacksonville. This momentum they've had in the second half of the year. Trevor Lawrence looking like a developed quarterback now, a potential guy who could maybe crack the hinge of the top 10, top 7, maybe by next year. And right now the momentum's on their side. They're going to be playing in front of that home Duval crowd, and I think that's going to help them get over.
It's an interesting matchup, too, because you have like two inexperienced teams in this regard. And I'm kind of interested with the Chargers. If they lose, is there a chance that their coach can get fired? And so there's that part of it. I'm kind of, is there, like with Sean Payton out there and them having a quarterback, is there a chance he could go there? I don't know. Any last thoughts, Jimmy, on this matchup here Saturday night?
I'm just to be different. I think the Chargers win because I want to see them put the game on Eckler's back. And I don't think that they're going to get blown out twice by the Jaguars. It was bad early on, but the Chargers were really bad early on in the season. That Thursday night game against Kansas City messed them up for a little bit of the season. They had a lot of injuries. That was when Herbert got his ribs cracked. Everett gave up on the pick six and didn't even try to run a route. I think that they're a different team. Yeah, I mean, Brandon Staley, he's the biggest nutcase in the NFL that's still a head coach. Like, he overthinks himself, and then he underthinks himself. He's going to go for it on fourth down. He's going to play his starters going into the playoffs, but he doesn't play them in the preseason, and he's one of the guys preaching not playing any guys in the preseason. Like, he's so far over the place. I feel like he's a dog chasing his tail, and he's not going to catch it. And I don't know if they're going to fire him, but, like, this is just – it's going to end up being comical how bad it gets. Like, how Andy Reid used to handle clock management is going to be like 4th and 6 on his own 44, and his head's just going to –
Personally, I think the bigger head case in Los Angeles might be their offensive coordinator, Lombardi, because I think Joe Lombardi is his name, but because every once in a while you'll see the things that make Justin Herbert great. Obviously he has a golden arm, maybe a top 2 when it comes to arm strength in the league, and plus his accuracy downfield is spectacular. You'll see Mike Williams come up with those grabs every once in a while, but sometimes I feel like you don't see that enough. Like with this Joe Lombardi thing, it's hard for him to give Herbert easier looks, because sometimes you'll see him deliver those deep strikes and look like an outstanding quarterback because he is. But the thing that's keeping them away from the top 10 is sometimes I just feel like the play callers aren't giving them easy reads. Like sometimes he looks like the amazing guy, and sometimes he looks like a conservative Teddy Bridgewater out there. So you really don't know what you're going to get.
I feel like whatever team gets a lead 12 or like 14 nothing will lose. Like I feel like this is the time of game. Like whoever
Doug Peterson's likely for like a mind meld too, because he runs a Philly special every game, whether he should or not. Like that's Nico and I talked about it on our last podcast. If you do not have man coverage against you, you cannot run the Philly special because nobody's surprised. Everybody's just standing there watching you run around in the backfield. It's not going to work. Let's get an audible out of this. You don't need to do it every time.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that, to me, it's one of the more intriguing games of the weekend here on the AFC side. All right, before we move to the NFC side of the things, I want to get to our question of the week here that I have brought to you by Row One Brand. Use the code VSN15, get 15% off in the art gallery. Guys, on the Row One Brand kind of subject there, what AFC playoff game would you want Row One seats for? Jimmy, I'm guessing it's the Bengals. I guess it's the Bengals. Which matchup do you like maybe the most? Is that the matchup? Is that even if you don't want? Which matchup do you find the most intriguing in the first round here?
If I couldn't go to the Bengals game, I would want to go to the Bills game just because I want to tailgate with Bills Mafia. That's the main thing. So if it wasn't Bengals, it would be there. I have enough warm clothes. I could deal with the weather. But yeah, I want to jump through a table. That'd be good content too. Maybe I should look into. I can't afford it, but maybe I should look into that.
There was one earlier in the year where somebody did it, and then it looked like he was going to cry. But he had the little underneath there.
Can't cry on camera.
Yeah,
turn it off.
Turn it off. Brian Johnson, who do you got here? What's the game you're most intrigued for? I know you got Niners. Is there another one though that's like kind of more exciting to you?
Yeah, I'm really intrigued in the Jacksonville Chargers game. Yeah. I'd love to go see Herbert play live, and that would definitely be the game I would want a Row One seat for.
Yeah, for sure. How about you, Josh? Which game are you kind of looking forward to?
I'm the same. I mean, either go party with Bills Mafia, which would be a dream, but that's going to be super cold. So I would be happy to go to the Jacksonville game. I think that would be maybe a little bit more fun this time of year.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I think Jacksonville, LA is the best game because when you look at the quarterback situation from all of these three AFC games, this is the only game where both teams have their starting quarterback playing and healthy. And plus they're young guys that look like they could be the future of the league, both making their first ever playoff games. So that's an interesting storyline there. Like these are future stars here. They've never been here in the postseason. Yeah, Lawrence, he won a national championship in college, but this ain't college no more. And then Herbert, he won a Rose Bowl in Oregon, but it ain't college. So let's see what they do in the big leagues now.
It's a very intriguing matchup. That's the one I would go with as well. Except for Jimmy, I would join you. I'd want a Bengals. I haven't been to the jungle before out there. I wouldn't mind going to see a game out there. And
they have like a ton of super fans, and none of their super fans rob banks to go to all the games. They have like the Bengals captain. Some dude grew out the captain. Obviously,
he's the Chiefs guy you're talking about.
Yeah, obviously.
I forgot about that.
That guy who sold meth and robbed banks so that he could go to all the Chiefs games and wore the same mask that he wore to the games while he was robbing the banks. Patrick Swayze's rolling over in his grave like, you idiot.
You could have done better than that.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep Point Break cut for those of you out there paying attention.
I've seen the movie many times. I understand where you're coming from with that one. All right, well, that's our question of the week brought to you by Row One Brand. Like I said, use the code VSN15 and you go check them out on Twitter at CoolStub there. All right, gentlemen, let's keep it moving here to the NFC side of things. Brian, let's start with you on this part of it. Let's go to the first game. You called them the Sea Chickens, talking trash. The Seahawks to get them for the third time here versus your Niners Saturday on Fox. What do you think between this matchup? Do you give Seattle any chance to pull it off against your boy Purdy and the Niners?
No, I mean, I just feel like we're just a better team right now.
Yeah.
And I just think that I don't know. It just feels like Seattle they made the playoffs, but a lot of people thought of them as a surprise. So, yeah, I just feel like the Niners just should be able to win this game pretty easily.
What do you think there, Rev?
at this point, I kind of have to agree here with San Francisco winning because simply just with the things that Kyle Shanahan has been able to do, this offense, adjusting through 3 different quarterbacks, and it seems like each and every step of the way, when they've gone from Trey Lance to Jimmy Garoppolo to Brock Purdy, the offense has actually gone better each and every step of the way. Like it's just mind-blowing to see them go to third-string quarterback and all of a sudden their offense looks more functional. As for the Seattle side of things, it's good to see them get so far. They already have the comeback player of the year in Geno Smith, and to see what they've been able to do, even with the defensive woes that we've seen get exposed all year, but for them to still rally behind. They have 3 players on their team with over 1,000 yards from scrimmage with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Kenneth Walker. So they got a little 3-headed monster to at least make the game close enough to that it's not out of hand. That's at least in a competitive game. When you see just the terror that, like, the energy that this 49ers defense plays with on all 3 levels, and also just the way that they beat you up on the offensive side of things. I just think that physicality is going to be too much in front of that San Francisco crowd.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of tend to lean towards that analysis right there. What do you think, Josh, from up north there? What do you think of this matchup here between the Seahawks and the Niners? Who do you think Seattle at all? Geno Smith had a bounce back year. Pete Carroll's from the area. Any chance they can pull off a massive upset?
I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance for one reason only. San Francisco may be so full of themselves and may overlook the Seahawks, and the Seahawks can pull something off. Pete Carroll is a college coach champion, time in and time out. One of the best college coaches ever. I love the Geno Smith story from this year, but I'll be honest with you, for the first time in my life, I'm pulling for the 49ers because I want to see Mr. Irrelevant lead the 49ers to a victory. I think it'd be cool to see the last guy in the draft get picked and do something special. I just think it'd be fun. I love the underdog story, like I said already. I think this would be cool, even though he's not an underdog. He's just Mr. Irrelevant.
Last pick out of Iowa State. It's crazy how the Shanahan. I always think of Mike Shanahan when they had him with the Redskins. They had Cousins. It's just this weird kind of idea. It's not the same, but it's kind of what I thought of right away. Jimmy, you got the Niners by a lot. You think the Seahawks can do anything? They got the receivers, maybe.
I see it going a lot like how this national championship game's going. If you see me shaking my head on
it's 51-7 now. My goodness.
I feel like every time you guys talk to me, 14 points have been scored every time.
They've scored on every single offensive possession that they've had tonight. That's Georgia. Because they can do whatever they want to this TCU defense personnel-wise. Just like how I think the San Francisco 49ers, I know that they're all professional players. I think that they can do whatever they want against the Seattle team. I like seeing guys like DK Metcalf and Kenneth Walker. They're really establishing themselves as offensive guys. I don't trust Geno Smith in the playoffs. He beat Baker Mayfield to back his way into the playoffs. That's how his season went. And the Seahawks are going to be just happy that they won the Russell Wilson trade because they not only get to play in the playoffs, they get the number 5 overall pick from the Broncos. So they've won this season. They have nothing else to play for. And I want the 49ers to move on. I'm just calling it now. I want the Bengals to play the 49ers and get this fucking curse off my back in the Super Bowl.
Here. Wow, Chris.
Yeah, I need it wrong.
It would be the same thing as the other 2 Super Bowls.
No, Joe Cool is different than Boomer, and as much as I love Kenny Anderson, it would be different. And you guys don't have Joe Montana.
No, they don't.
He's the best tackler I've seen since Joe Montana.
They got Mr. Irrelevant. What are you talking about? They got something better than Joe on that standpoint.
Exactly.
Mr. Relevant. Let's call him that.
He's going to take a puff on Joe's cigar and die of smoke inhalation. He's such a little baby.
The only thing that's interesting out here, it's been storming out here in the Bay Area. I mean, just coming down like it's never happened before. So
I listened to your guys' podcast. You were talking about how cold and wintry it was. Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, that's cute.
maybe not cold and wintry like we were like that, but it was cold and rainy as hell. Let's put it that way. So we got a couple inches of rain for the last we're supposed to get another 4 inches over the next 2 days. So we'll see what happens there in Santa Clara if it messes up the field, if it's slippery or anything there. All right, here we go. We're kind of in the third quarter here of the podcast. Let's go to the Giants Vikings part of it, gentlemen. This game to me, I gotta say, to me it's I don't even know what to make of this game. I was having the hardest time analyzing who would win this game. I was like, okay, the Vikings should win this. Okay, but then the Giants, the Vikings always play close games. The chance the Giants sneak in there. I found it interesting looking. The Vikings were so good at home. The Giants were so bad on the road. So I end up just saying I'm going to go with the Vikings for that reason alone. They've ended up winning more close games. Josh, you're obviously on the other side of a big Vikings game this year. We won't talk about that game. I know, but what do you think about this matchup? If you want to touch on the game, you can. But what do you think of that matchup between the Vikings and Giants? You think the Giants can pull anything out here?
It's the NFL. There's always a chance. I'm going to be rooting for the Giants because I don't like the Vikings. I never have liked the Vikings except for when Kyle Rudolph was there, and he was the only player I rooted for on the Vikings. So I'm hoping the Giants can do something just because I think it'd be fun. But no, I'm pretty sure the Vikings should wrap this one up inside of 3 quarters and be able to relax a little bit.
What do you think, Jimmy?
It's tough. Like they're good on them for getting there, but they have gone through cap hell and they've pulled themselves kind of through that. But this is where the playoffs are where you're going to start to see that really affect you. They're a 6 seed because, good for them. But yeah, going on the road, the first round of the playoffs, that team's not built to win a road playoff game right now. They're probably going to run it back with similar guys and hopefully have some more money to get talent around them. But the fact that Kenny Golladay scored his first touchdown in like 3 months for them the other day, and they've paid him so much money. It just shows where those Giants franchise is. Good on them. They broke their playoff curse, but that's probably the best thing that you're going to get out of the season.
It's funny you brought that up because it was funny I saw something that morning of the games where it's like he only needs 76 cashes to reach his bonus or something like that for the year. That was messed up. Rev, what do you got? You think it's funny because I remember I think it got to be like maybe over 20 years ago now where the Vikings were the underdog going into New York. And they went off and pulled off the upset there in New York. I forget who the quarterback of the Giants was at that time. But what do you think? You think anything crazy happens here? You think the Vikings, hold up?
I'm kind of leaning the other way just when it comes to Minnesota Blues during the playoffs where something just happens at like the last moment of a game where they just get let down in the postseason. And I kind of see something like that happening here with Minnesota. And something about the New York Giants is on paper. They don't look very well, but they have some pieces they can rely on. Saquon Barkley, as long as he's healthy, he can be that workhorse and chew up clock and gain the yards that you need. The run can set up the pass. And we've seen some games here and there. Maybe if Daniel Jones had a stronger receiving corps, we see more consistent games. But the last time against Minnesota, which one of the most unreliable defenses out there. Like they rely on, the offense and the fact that Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson just have a ridiculous connection with each other to keep them in games, but their defense gives up points just as quickly as they score points. And I think something that's underrated about this Giants team is just how well Brian Daboll could just game plan around teams. Like this is probably the least talented roster in the playoffs right now, like quarterbacks like excluded. Yeah. But they just find ways to game plan around you. They don't make a lot of silly mistakes. They just kind of stick around in games. And I think they're going to be able to do that and just pull off a close matchup here against Minnesota. And you look at what they got, Saquon running the ball. On the defensive side, Dexter Lawrence being the boss in the middle of the defense there. And I just think ultimately they'll be able to pull it off in the last – maybe it'll be like one of those games that'll come down to the last minute, maybe a missed field goal. I kind of just have a feeling it's going to be one of those Minnesota playoff letdowns.
Okay, I like it. Going with the Giants in the front. Brian, you said you had the Vikings, right?
No, actually, the more I've been thinking about it, I just feel like this game might be an upset. I just feel like, I don't know, I just haven't been in. I think the Vikings are that team that, they're a 3 seed, but I feel like they've been a fraud the whole year. It's like they should have lost a lot more games than they did. And I don't know. I just think the Giants could pull this one off.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting matchup. I always, in a matchup like this, it's the Cousins. If Cousins lose this one, right, it's kind of like that typical one. All right, let's go to the last NFC game here of the round here. this one will be watched up the wazoo on Monday night. Last year's Monday night playoff game was awful. This one should be hopefully a lot better score-wise. I never know what to make of Logan's Cowboys versus the Bucs in this regard. Let's start with you, Rev, on this one. What do you think about this matchup? Can the Cowboys kind of finally get it done and overcome this kind of like burden they have when it comes to playoff time? And can they do it on the road against Tom Brady, against a team that really has just been all year? What do you think?
Ultimately, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that we saw, where we saw moments of good play, but every once in a while you'll just see like a guy make a bonehead mistake that just shuts down all of their momentum. I think that's going to creep back and haunt them again. Perhaps we may see some signs of aging here with Tom Brady too, just with the fact that you have a 45-year-old person going up against this Cowboys pass rush. Yeah, Tristan Wirfs a good tackle. Donovan Smith's not bad. He's not a horrible guy either, but when you got just this deep rotation of pass rushers from Micah Parsons to DeMarcus Lawrence to Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler coming off the bench, Sam Williams coming off the bench, that's too many pass rushers. They're going to get after it. And from the offensive side of the ball, we've seen Dak Prescott throw a lot of interceptions lately, some of it his fault, some of it not his fault. But I think ultimately they're going to be able to lean on that double-headed attack of Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard to take some pressure off of Prescott's shoulders. Yeah, Vita Vea's a brick wall and he's hard to run into, but we've seen some teams do it with more success than we normally would expect against Tampa Bay. So I think that running game is going to be there to help alleviate the pressure off of Dak Prescott's shoulders, and I got the Cowboys pulling off the win here.
On the road, that'd be a big win for them. I mean, it doesn't feel like record-wise it says they should beat the Bucs, but I think for them it'd be a big win. What do you think, Josh? I think Logan's Cowboys are going to get the win here. Or you think the Bucs pull it out on Monday night?
So here's what I want to happen. I want to see Dak Prescott play a good game.
That's fair.
I want to see Dallas win just so I can see them lose in the divisional round. But if the Bucs pull this off and Dak looks bad, I hope this is the end of Dak because I'm tired of hearing about Dak Prescott. He's overrated. He can't get it done in clutch time. He has all the talent in the world around him. I'm tired, so tired of Dak Prescott. I want him to be gone. I want him to be done. I want him out of Dallas so they stop covering him. He can go play for Atlanta or the Raiders for all I care. But, I mean, I'm hoping Brady has some magic to knock Dak Prescott out. But I want to see Tony Pollard have a good game and unseat Ezekiel Elliott because I think Zeke's overrated too.
When you said Prescott to the Raiders, I just thought of the Spider-Man thing with the car and him going pointing at each other on that one there. That's all I could think of on that part there. Jimmy, what do you got? Or sorry if I cut somebody off. Jimmy, I thought that was you. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that the Cowboys are going to run a quarterback draw with 15 seconds left and no timeouts, and then Tom Brady's going to forget that he can only play 4 downs and try and go for a 5th down play like he did on Monday night a couple years ago against the Bears. These teams both suck. These teams both are not going to go past the divisional round.
That's fine.
I don't care who wins this game. They're going to get blown out by whoever they play the week after. I don't have faith in either of these teams making a Super Bowl run. I know it's Brady, and I know that Skip Bayless likes to give Shannon Sharp a hard time. I finally am good. Like, I haven't been on this Brady's washed bandwagon for the last couple of years. I'm good jumping on that bandwagon right now. I got a bum ankle from wrestling practice, but I'm pretty confident I can jump on that bandwagon and be just fine. He may surprise me and win maybe this round and could possibly make it close to the next round. But I really think that either of these teams are going to get bounced next. Whoever wins this week is going to get bounced easily the following week.
Yeah, that would be it'd be interesting with that divisional round. That next one's always interesting, but I kind of tend to lean with you in that regard. Brian, what do you think? Cowboys, Buccaneers. We've said this would be the most overhyped game, and the ESPN gets it on Monday night. Unbelievable. So that's going to be 24 hours.
Troy Aikman gets the Cowboys.
Yeah, no shot. Oh, I'm sure. That's great. I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
I don't know what it's about ESPN and the NFC East, but they love talking about them, and I don't know. It's like both of these teams, they don't impress me. They've been inconsistent. like Dallas has benefited off an easy schedule, and I do think Dallas will win the game, but they're probably going to get bounced the next round by maybe the 49ers or something.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing with the Bucs is they haven't been able to run the ball at all year, so it's like they just kind of heavily depended on that Evans kind of connection there, and Dallas has a decent enough defense to get that done in that regard. Any last thoughts, Rev, on the game?
Not a whole lot outside of what I just said, but ultimately we may see some signs of Tom Brady maybe aging here because, like I said, that pass rush is going to get after him, and ultimately it'll slow down the pace of the game enough for Dallas's run game to get going, and maybe it'll be what is it going to be? Dallas's first playoff win since that 2018-2019 season. But
Yeah,
I see them pulling off the win. Not a whole lot to say here. I don't really see either of these teams making the Super Bowl, but perhaps a playoff win could keep the Cowboys fans at least somewhat content with Prescott and what's going on there.
I just hope it's a good game on a Monday night. Last year's was so bad.
Oh yeah.
Brian. I was trying to think of the Cowboys guy that was always on Sports Center. Is it Ed Warder? Is that the guy that's always around?
Yeah, he's the guy. He's the guy who always reports on the Cowboys. Ed Warder.
I expect to see him coming back for those games right here. All right, gentlemen, we're in the fourth quarter of it. Josh, you want to just hang on with us?
Yeah, sure.
All right, we're in the fourth quarter. I'm down to the end. 2-minute drill here. We're going to wrap it up here before we make our final Super Bowl predictions here. Jimmy, what wonderful glasses you on there. I wonder what team who you're going to ride on this one. I look forward to who everybody says on this one. Who do you have as your MVP, sir, now that the regular season is over? You're turning in your ballot. Who do you got?
I am biased. I don't care. I think that it's perfectly fine. I'm going to say Joe Burrow because at some point after I continue to say Joe Burrow, he's going to win one. That's just the trajectory that his career's on. If he stays healthy, I have a good feeling that he's going to be able to win at least an MVP. Maybe more than one, but just the one for now. I think that he's got a good solid case. I don't know if he'll win it this year, but that's who I would vote for. Well, I would say in the next 5 years, probably.
The LeVar Ball are picking our MVPs. You'll say it. You'll say it will come true, right? There we go. We'll call that.
Yeah. George Foreman named all of his kids George Foreman just in case one of them became famous like him. So I guess I'll just keep saying Joe Burrow.
With Chris Berman too at the Bills and Niners for like 30 years straight about the same thing. What do you think, Josh? You got anything MVP take? I'm guessing not Lamar Jackson. No, I'm kidding.
No, absolutely not. I want to say Josh Allen, but looking at everything, looking at injuries, unfortunately, I have to go with Jalen Hurts because the Eagles just did not look the same when he was out for those 2 games. He comes back, they get the job done. He has grown so much as a player. Philly looks fantastic this year. It pains me to say it, but I got to go with Jalen Hurts.
That's fair. Brian, who do you got?
I'm going to go with the guy that was the reason I made fantasy football playoffs in my money league. I'm going with Patrick Mahomes. With the weapons he didn't have and to throw for 5,200 yards, I mean, the guy's just a beast.
Yeah, a little chest pass he made for a touchdown on Saturday was pretty impressive there, just kind of making the Raiders look. They play good defense and they still got a touchdown on that one.
Yeah,
what do you think, Brett?
I like the
Yeah, they're over here playing Ring Around the Rosie with the Raiders.
I like the Ring Around the Rosie huddle.
But
hey, would you guys be offended, by the way, if a team did that to you on the other end? Like, I'm just asking. Yeah, you would be. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit, but yeah.
I get paid millions of dollars to play this game, and you're going to do Ring Around the Rosie before you line up and beat my ass? Yeah, luckily it got called back, but if I give up a touchdown like that, I'm swinging on the next series.
Yeah. Have you had anybody ever do anything, either of you guys, in some, like, where you're like, what the that's bull, like, you know, in terms of, like, any formation bullshit like that?
I mean, the craziest thing maybe that I've seen happen in, like, against my high school, just, you know, the typical running back pass that they pull off every once in a while where, you know, perhaps if the safety commits to the run and the wide receiver gets behind them, then that's a touchdown every time. And that's what happened to my high school once. But yeah, but to go back to the topic before, I second Josh there. I think Patrick Mahomes is gonna win the MVP here because whether it's Jalen Hurts, who was a front runner, but then ultimately the injury, he missed a good chunk of action there during the season. And the question before the year being, how is Kansas City going to look without Tyreek Hill? What's Patrick Mahomes going to look without Tyreek Hill? And he didn't miss a beat. He still got Travis Kelce. And then he said, well, why not start throwing some passes to Jerick McKinnon, let him score some touchdowns? He found people every once in a while. It was Juju every once in a while. Kadarius Toney once he joined the team, or he just kind of showed his brilliance. Like they paid him $500 or $500 million or half a billion dollars for a reason. Like you're a good quarterback. You don't have Tyreek Hill. Figure it out. And he figured it out.
Yeah. No, he's a beast. I got Mahomes too. I got Mahomes 1, Hurts 2, Burrow 3. I think the injury to Hurts actually did change a lot of people's minds there at the end. I think it was really close this year in that regard. I do think Hurts maybe would have got – let's put it this way. It would have been very close. I think now Mahomes gets a little bit of the edge with Burrow probably coming in third there. All right, next question I got here. Let's fit the Texans. They win the last week. They give up the number 1 pick. The Bears end up getting it. I'm going to go to my college football guys here. I think you can watch a little bit more than I do over here. You got Georgia killing them. I kind of posed it there at the end. You don't have to answer it necessarily, but like, would the Bears ever give up on Fields necessarily? They fell in love with any of these guys. If not, do you see somebody the Bears should take? Maybe the guy from Alabama, the defensive player. What do you think, Jimmy?
Honestly, I don't know. They have so much talent that they need to fill. I think it's good for them that they got the number 1 pick, and they should fake. They should throw a feint and say that they're going to draft a quarterback. They don't know if Justin Fields is their guy. They should stick with him, but force one of these quarterback-hungry teams like the Commanders, be like, okay, what do you want? We'll trade you whatever you want. They have the most amount of cap space to do what they want in the offseason and trade back, pick up a couple first-round picks instead of just the one. I don't know if it'll be the Commanders specifically, but I thought that they were going to trade out of the second pick if they were able to solidify that. Now that it's the number 1 pick, there's really nobody like that. Defensive player from Alabama would be good, but is one defensive stud going to change your entire team around? I haven't. Micah Parsons, but his team's a 5th seed. They didn't even win their division. So I think that they have too much that they have to gain ground on. They should trade back and pick somebody else up, have like still a top 10 pick, and then maybe a team that has one of these mid-20s type picks as well. Maybe Seattle. Seattle doesn't want to commit to Geno Smith. They make a swap for the 5 and the 1. Yeah, the Steelers could be too.
No, that's not the Steelers. Brian, I was going to say before we go to Rev here, Brian, I was going to say I find it interesting with the Bears. Like, would they really give up? It feels like it'd be messed up if they did that to Fields, but this is the NFL. It's a big boy business here. Like Jimmy said, there's no reason why wouldn't you, from a strategy standpoint, say you might draft a quarterback? What do you think? You think the Bears go defense here? You think there's any world they take like young Alabama or anybody else that's at the QB position there?
I kind of agree with Jimmy where I think they should just trade down and get more picks. I mean, you can't give up. You can't give up on Fields this soon.
No,
you gotta give him like 1 or 2 more years, and I can't see them taking a quarterback with the number 1 pick.
That'd be interesting. Rev, is there a defense? What do you guys think about Williams? You guys know for Alabama. I hear he's number 2 projected. Would they take him number 1? You think? What do you think, Rev?
Wait, Will Anderson?
Thank you. I couldn't think of his first name. Thank you. Yeah.
As a pass rusher, that should be attractive to the Chicago Bears, considering one, they traded Robert Quinn, and their best pass rusher, I believe, was a guy named Dominique Robinson. So they could use help anywhere, but I think with how depleted their roster is, they're better off getting multiple draft picks. Yeah. Like one guy isn't going to change the fact that this team is just a deserted roster full just lacking in talent all over the place. Like it's good to see Justin Fields make strides, but ultimately number 1 overall pick is not going to change the fact that your roster is incompetent and your roster can't. I mean, I'm just happy the fact that I predicted Chicago Bears. I predicted Chicago Bears would be the worst team in the NFL heading into the season. Now, I'm not right about a lot of things. Well, I'm happy I was right there, but ultimately they need multiple draft picks here. One guy isn't going to solve it. I think they should trade back. See if they get as many first-round, second-round picks as they can.
You don't have $100 million in cap space because your team is talented.
Yeah, that's true. That might be my favorite. The roster is incompetent. I'm going to say it to my classroom one time when they're doing that. You all are incompetent. I'm going to save that for that. That's a good one.
You know what one you have to pull out, Darren? You guys are just learning up to your potential.
There you go. I'll have to use that one. I could use that today with my third grade class. Josh, you touched on the Bears too. You got your Colts at 4th pick. Maybe you can just give us what you want the Colts to do. Like, are they going to go veteran quarterback again for the 38th million year in a row? Are they going to get Derek Carr, or what do you kind of want them to take? Maybe a quarterback with that pick.
Man, I don't like any of the quarterbacks in this draft, to be honest. I think Will Levis is overrated. Ohio State quarterbacks don't typically work out in the NFL.
See Justin Fields.
It's one okay season for Justin Fields. The jury is still yet to be.
I agree.
Yeah, we should talk about the other Ohio State quarterback. That was.
I think you should talk Philip Rivers out of
Didn't
retirement.
get really good till he was in LSU.
No, I was talking about Haskins, but if we want to bring up, the guy he lost the quarterback battle to. That's what I meant.
No, I just don't like Ohio State quarterbacks, so I don't want the Colts to go that route. Yeah. They need a dominant wide receiver, because that's part of the reason their quarterbacks can't do anything is they don't have a dominant force at wide out. They have a decent tight end, but the Colts have always been better when they've had a dominant tight end or a top tier tight end.
Yeah.
So there's 2 of those available in the first round they could go after, but the Colts are bad. So any improvement they can make on the offensive side of the ball, whether that be a left tackle, wide out, tight end, I think you go after one of the quarterbacks that'd be free agent, or you go trade for a quarterback who's established. But first and foremost, go get Sean Payton and let him build a team in Indianapolis. Chicago should trade the first pick away.
Yeah. And sorry to interrupt, but to give an update to that BCS National Championship game, 9 minutes ago in the 4th quarter, it is 59-7 Georgia, and Georgia has their backups in. So
they moved the ball just as fast. It was. It's the most depressing thing of all time.
Thank you, Michigan, you big jerks. You could at least give it. When Michigan gave us a game.
No. This was Georgia's plan, no matter what. Stetson Bennett tied Joe Burrow's record for touchdowns in a BCS or a CFP national championship game with 6. The dude went off tonight. He had something to prove. So Georgia was going to do this to anybody.
Damn.
I would like to think
the
Michigan
Colts should draft Stetson Bennett in the 2nd or 3rd round.
First pick, 4th overall. Stetson Bennett. What the?
Yeah, he might have just went from undrafted guy to maybe like a 5th round pick. But back to Michigan, I think maybe they'd have the phicality to compete with them a little bit, but just stopping the passing game and also from the coverage side of things.
Beat them up though. TCU's getting punched in the mouth right now, but TCU physically dominated Michigan. And I feel like it isn't.
I think it's more so the passing game. Like, I think physicality wise, they maybe go they could go compete a little bit there, but just the passing game and what Stetson has been able to do improving as a passer would give him the lead anyway. But I would say Michigan probably wouldn't give up 60 to Georgia. But either way, maybe it would have been better off to see an Alabama out there. Yeah, they got 2 losses, but this would not happen to Alabama. I'm happy they didn't make the playoffs, but this is not happening in Alabama.
If somebody watches Pac-12 football, anybody thinks better out there for a while. In that football, SEC usually gives you better.
Do they count that as football?
That's true. That's true in that regard.
That's 7-on-7.
Hey, Bears fans, if you just joined us, we were not talking about Stetson Bennett being picked with the first pick overall, just to keep you healthy there in that regard. All right, guys, last thing here, and then we'll get to our winners and losers of the week. We'll call it a show. All right, we can go around here. Give us our, if you want, give me your championship kind of games if you want, or just give me your Super Bowl picks. Either way, I don't care how you do it. Josh, since you're a guest, thanks for jumping on again here today. Appreciate getting your insight on a little bit of the NFL here. We haven't got a chance to have you on with that. Only usually get to talk baseball with you, so it's nice to be able to talk a little NFL with you as well. Who do you have coming out of the AFC? Who do you have coming out of the NFC? Who do you think meets in the Super Bowl? And do you have a winner for us?
I'm going to give you who I want real quick, and then who I really think will happen.
Okay.
I want it to be Buffalo and Philly, because I think it'll be the best game. I think it'll probably be KC because they have home field advantage through the playoffs. So Buffalo has to go into KC in Arrowhead and win. So I
Well,
don't
that'll be
know
a
if
neutral
Buffalo's going to
site
be able
game,
to do that or
actually.
not.
That'll be a neutral
Oh, you're
site
right.
game.
It will be.
Yeah.
I totally forgot.
I don't know where. I heard it
totally
might be at
forgot.
Indianapolis, but they turned it down. So
No.
they're not. Yeah, they won't be. Maybe it'll be
Indy
at
shot
the
it down, so they should do it at Notre Dame. Just because that would be fantastic. Oh man, that totally screwed me up. I forgot about the neutral site game. Well, it could be KC or Buffalo out of the AFC. I don't think anybody else can do it, to be honest with you. Cincinnati was a sneaky chance, but I'd go KC still, and
Buffalo.
it's hard for me not to say Philadelphia. I think San Francisco's got an inside shot, but
All right.
I would go with
going,
Philly.
All right, I'm writing down. Josh going Philly. Brian, let's go with you. I'm gonna write down here. I got Philly, Buffalo. I mean, I know you got the Niners, but who do you think come out of the AFC in this regard? Who do you got as your Super Bowl here?
I think Berman can go at cloud 9, and it's finally Niners Bills in the Super Bowl.
Niners Bills cloud 9. If that actually happens, it would just be stunning after all the years. It was so funny. It got ridiculous after the years after that. After it happened, Rev, what do you think? Is there a game you want to see? A matchup? You give me it all. What do you think is realistic? I know you're a big football fan. You know your stuff. What do you got here as we're at the best part of the football season?
Yeah, I got no rooting interest here, so I think it's going to be Buffalo beating Philadelphia in the playoffs. Philadelphia, when you look away from the quarterback position, there's so much depth all over the place. The dominant offensive line they got. So, they got a good running back there, Miles Sanders, and, of course, the corps of receivers they got. This ridiculously stacked defensive line that they got, going after Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph to pair up with Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox on the interior. They just got Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. Who else do they got? Hassan Reddick. Just like a random assortment of just all these people on the defensive line. Follow with the guys they picked up in the secondary as well. It's just I think they have the most talented roster outside of quarterback in the NFL. That's going to show in the playoffs. So that it'll get them to the Super Bowl. But ultimately, I think with the Bills, the high-powered offense, Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen being on a mission, I think that's going to take them to a Super Bowl victory.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We all, besides Jimmy there at the Bengals, I think we all had
I haven't given you my picks yet.
Well, I know, but I'm going to assume you have the Bengals here, but I'm going to assume that everybody had the Bills here. Let's go to you, though. You're my next guy here. Who do you have in the AFC Championship, maybe in the NFC Championship? Maybe if you want to give me that as well. And then who do you have in the Super Bowl here?
I got it all. I've been turning it over. That's why I'm wearing the glasses, so you guys can't see the gears turning in my mind. I have the Eagles and 49ers. I have the 1 and 2 in the NFC. I think that the Eagles do what they did a couple of years ago when everyone thought that the Vikings were going to go in there and give them a game. Probably be a little bit closer, but like Brock Purdy going into the link for an NFC Championship game, I'd have to see him be successful before I'm going to predict that he'd be successful. So I'm going to say the Eagles win the NFC Championship. I'm going to go Bills-Bengals in the AFC Championship. We're going to get that game that everybody was so highly touted for. It's going to be emotional. Both teams are going to really that's going to be it's their ticket to go to the big dance. The Bengals know what it's like to get there. The Bills have been heartbreak after heartbreak and trying to get over that hump. I think that's going to be a hell of a quarterback battle between Allen and Burrow. Obviously, I'm biased, so Burrow's going to come out on top, and I'm going to get Bengals over Philly in the Super Bowl. I know I'm going to probably get roasted for that one, but it worked out for me last year, so I'm going to go with it again.
You know what? I actually have the same thing. I have Bengals versus Niners. That's what I think it is. I think the Bengals are. I had them I picked them about 6 weeks ago, and I kind of was like, I'm just going to ride with them the rest of the way here. So I have the Bengals. I've been with the Niners for a long time. I feel like their defense is too legit. And I actually, when you made that point about them going into Philly, you're right. Like that is going to be, that will be the ultimate test for Brock Purdy in that regard. But I just trust that defense, I guess, more than maybe I should at times. But I don't know. I just trust the Niners defense to come up big in that regard. So those are our Super Bowl and championship picks. Be sure to take the Jaguars and the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl.
Could the Bills even play the Bengals in the AFC Championship game? Because when they play in the divisional, right?
Yeah, they play
Depends on how the low seeds work out, I think.
Yeah.
because if the Bengals are the lowest seed, we'd have to beat the Chiefs in the divisional.
It would work out if the higher seeds all win. Then you're right.
Oh, yeah.
Then the Bengals wouldn't be able to play the Chiefs in that regard. Hey, real quick, I didn't look it up. Does anybody actually know where the Super Bowl is located this year?
Arizona.
Is it Arizona this year? Okay, I wasn't sure exactly where it's at. All right, let's get to one of my favorite parts, the last part of our show here, Week 18, talking the gridiron. We made it all the way through, gentlemen, since our first preseason podcast. Jimmy, can you believe it, with Logan on the preseason podcast? I'll have to go back and look at what we actually said in that regard over there. I don't even know what we said at that point, but we've come a long way over here. Who do you got? Let's start with our guest here. Let's start with Josh Edwards, one of our guys here at Variety Sports Network. Does a great job over here. Let's start with your winners and losers. You know, even if you got anything, you can go anything. I'm going to do it for the whole season. Anything you want. It could be announcers. I don't care what the heck your winner or loser is. Anything regarding the NFL. You got a winner maybe this year, Josh, regarding the NFL?
The Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
The Detroit Lions is my winner for the year. Just because of everything they've been through, the fan base has been through. They finally got a winning season, and they look like they have some momentum going into next year. My biggest losers of the year have to be the Indianapolis Colts, because they were supposed to be something. Matty Ice was supposed to be protected and have weapons, and this defense was supposed to be staunch and at least get them a wild card, if not win the division. They fell flat on their faces. So, yeah, I got to give the Colts the losers spot this year.
I love giving losers to our own team. It's easy to do that one, so I can respect that part of it for sure. The Colts, I think, man, we've talked about them a lot, especially in the mid part of this season here on this podcast, and just some of the decisions they've made for sure. Brian Johnson out there in San Diego, what do you got? What do you have as your winners and losers of the season here?
I gotta say, winners definitely Brian Daybell, because with that roster to make the playoffs, I definitely consider that impressive. And then the loser, I'd have to say the Arizona Cardinals, because they've been a dumpster fire all year. Their GM stepped down and Kingsbury's fired, and wasn't that the guy who wanted Murray the whole time? So what are you gonna do with Murray now?
So, Jimmy, I guess that makes Call of Duty the winner. Just kidding.
Call of Duty won. Yeah, he's been playing the hell out of that ever since he got injured.
What do you got, Rev, for winner and loser of the NFL season here?
I would like to start with the positive. I mean, I like to start with the negative news, get the bad news out of the way, and then do the winners last. Like, for the losers, like, I gotta do locally here in Colorado and just talk about the Denver Broncos here. Just Russell Wilson.
Dang it, Rev.
Russell Wilson going from a guy who, you know, has a Hall of Fame career, which he still has a Hall of Fame career. That hasn't changed. But just from him, the reputational dip that he's had, like, okay, it's okay that the Broncos have shown some signs of life ever since Hackett got fired these last 2 weeks. So there's still signs of optimism. But when you look at how things went while Hackett was here this season, from Wilson being a highly respected quarterback to being the national punchline of, like, the entire NFL, and making it worse is that the Broncos got a lot of televised games. People were expecting them to be competitive. The AFC West, there were these high expectations against all these teams here. And you know it's really bad when you got Patrick Starr making fun of you on national television. So they were just out there getting ridiculed.
He stole all of mine. Damn it.
Yeah, like literally you got cartoons making jokes about you. So clearly the Broncos are the biggest losers of the year. It's hard to pick a biggest winner because there were like three teams there in which they had three teams that had very wide odds of making a
Give them to me. What do you got? It's all right. We're here. Final show. What are the final shows here? Regular season one. What do you got? You got a couple winners? That's fine. I got about 7 for us, but I'm going to go fast. Go. What do you got?
Well, like I was just saying, like, there are three teams that have very wide odds of making the playoffs, whether we're talking about the Giants, the Jaguars, or the Seahawks. These are teams we're heading in, like, no one were expecting these teams to make it, whether it's the jump of the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence and the jumps he made, the ridiculous, like, the free agency pickups that they had with Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, and Zay Jones all paying off, and then addition by subtraction with Urban Meyer leaving. As for the Giants, just with the things that Daboll's been doing, and then the Seahawks, which is Geno Smith just having this ridiculous comeback season. So ultimately, if I had to pick one, it's just the the Jaguars, and then the Broncos being the losers.
The Broncos is ridiculous. 31 red zone opportunities all season. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? That is pathetic. Jimmy, you've been with me the whole time here. We've been doing it, like I said, since the preseason here. Wrapping it up, 2022 season winner and loser. Who do you got, my friend?
Well, my loser was going to be Nathaniel Hackett for having Patrick Starr basically lose him his job. But since Rev took that one, I'm going to go with Zach Wilson because remember when the story came out over the summer, everybody was saying this is the guy that I want. Yeah, I want the Cougar Slayer at quarterback. He's going to be the
Slayer.
He was a Cougar in college, and now he slays Cougars.
That's all he does now. Yeah, no, that was. I mean, he's the biggest loser of all time. The dude can't do anything, and he has the most punchable face.
Jimmy,
he just has the most punchable face of all NFL quarterbacks. I'd say him and Ben Roethlisberger are the two guys that I'd want to meet out in an alley the most. My winner, I'm gonna go with Zach Taylor because I know I called for his job. I called for his job on this show when the Ravens beat the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. I was not happy. I did not appreciate playing no starters in the preseason and how bad we looked. But as I've said a couple times now on this show, the culture has been established. That dude, he made the right decision with the DeMar Hamlin situation. He's coached his ass off in the playoffs last year. He's getting ready to coach again and hopefully have another deep run with this team that they're set up better than they were last season. I will say that. Their offensive line is much improved, even with some of the injuries that happened. Kappa's supposed to be back on Sunday, so that's not going to be necessarily the worst thing in the world. But Joe Burrow got sacked 1 million times last year and made it to the Super Bowl. And I don't know. He's got to be my winner because of how hard I was on him. I did the same thing last year. I think I'm going to call for his job every single season until he starts winning 8 games in a row.
You're like Brian with Shanahan. He just calls for Shanahan's job every loss too. So I can respect that from you guys. You guys are hardcore NFL fans in that regard. All right, my winner of the week, or I'm gonna go like Rev said. I'm gonna go loser first. I'm gonna give a few like I always do. I'm like the guy that does the pizza bite. I always take more than one. I got loser. The Titans. Are you freaking serious? You backed up and decided to throw a pass on that last possession when it got stripped. Just run the ball every time. What are you doing there? That's a loser of the week.
What about the 8-game losing streak to end the season too?
That's definitely loser material right there.
Yeah, they didn't have a single win against a team with a record at least 500. So that's not good either.
No, pathetic. I got a couple. My Raiders, yeah. Rams, yeah. NFC South, yeah. And then the Texans. You don't fire freaking somebody and then on Twitter and you're not say thank you for your job. Just let them go. You don't thank them after you fire them like that. So that's also a loser of the season for me than that. Nobody wants to get your damn thank you after you let them go. That's ridiculous. So unless you paid them all the money on the way out. My winner, I went with Rev. I also had Geno Smith on there leading the Seahawks to the playoffs, leading passer in Seahawks history, and made $3.5 extra million in incentives. That is your biggest freaking winner of the week. And I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for some of the conversations him and Pete Carroll must have had in the quarterback coach room, just talking about Russell Wilson. Yeah, they had to have a couple juicy conversations in their Johnson, talking about that stuff for sure. And then my winner, I got to throw one last one out there. J.J. Watt calling it quits after a great career, 114 half career sacks, defensive player of the year multiple times. So those are my winners and losers of the week. Any last thoughts, gentlemen, in that regard?
Just one thing, since we were talking about Geno Smith, do you think now with that extra $3.5 million, he's going to pay the debt that he owes to Ike and then Kampali? Do you think is he finally going to clear his debts?
Oh, he better, or else he might get punched in the jaw after they lose that playoff game.
I forget about that. Yeah, man, that was bad.
Was that his rookie year or second year?
I believe that was after his second year because he was trying. Yeah.
I couldn't remember which one it was in that regard, Jimmy. I knew you were going to go there as soon as you brought it up. All right, hey, before we get out of here, Josh Edwards, thanks for jumping off with us from Variety Sports Network. Big part of the network there. Thanks for jumping on, talking the Gridiron. Where can people follow you at? And what do we owe the pleasure for this evening?
So I've wanted to come in all season, but I didn't. I was so busy with everything else that was going on between covering baseball and hockey. I didn't feel like I was suited enough to come on and give intelligent conversation. I didn't want to insult anybody. So I tried to spruce up the best I could this weekend so I could come on for the last show. But you can find me on Twitter at @JEdwards_VSN. I am the main host on the newly revised St. Louis Cardinals baseball show. It's now called The Birds at Bush. We lost our main host and original creator of the show, so we needed to put that name to rest. So if you watch Cardinal Chronicles, come on over for Birds at Bush. It'll be myself with 2 new hosts for this next season. I'm also a host on the 7th Inning Stretch, which is our MLB show, which you guys see Darren on all the time because he's one of my favorites to have on. And then I also am a co-host on the Blues Notes, which is the St. Louis Blues hockey podcast. So come on, join us for any of those. If you guys ever want to come on for baseball or hockey, shoot me a message. Love to have you guys come on and talk baseball or hockey.
I'm just say this: since I've joined the Variety Sports Network and watched Jimmy's podcast a few months before, my hockey knowledge has never been better around the league in that regard. So I appreciate you guys for always keeping me updated on that. The Sharks, my dad keeps me updated, and I just see losses in in that column a lot. So Johnson, as you know, out here, show it when the playoffs come. We'll be around for the Sharks season in that regard. Brian, with that said, TMB podcast, I think you and Tyler said you're going to do on Thursday night previewing the Niners game. What do you got going on this week?
Yeah, we're just going to do like a season review of how the best points and the worst points. And then we're going to do a playoff preview. And I'm sure I'm going to be talking a lot of trash about the sea chicken.
Oh, I know you'll have a big mouth going there. It's in the morning, so thank God you won't have a couple beverages in you. Then you'd be getting ridiculous on them over there. So that's the good thing about it there. Rev, let's go with you over there. You got the D2. You guys got to the podcast over there. What am I was saw it on it. Was it South Dakota State that won the championship there with D2, or am I mistaken in that regard? Somebody help me with that.
South Dakota State is D1 AA. We honestly got so busy towards the end of the year that we kind of faltered off, but we're probably gonna try and bring that back. Sorry to step on you there, Rev.
No, you're good. But Rev, I just wanted to also say thanks for joining us. Like I was joking with before you came on about me always harassing you every week about, hey, can you join us this week? But I know life is life. We all have things going on, but I really appreciate you. The few times you were able to come on talking the gridiron, you know your football, man, like you really do. So I love having you on, and just I appreciate it very much. So where can we find you at? Where can shows you're tuning into?
Well, I'm always happy to join. Work gets in the way of things, but when I have time, I'm happy to be here. But yeah, well, happy to get that RMAC football show booted up again with Jimmy, even though Colorado Mines got mollywopped in the national championship game, but it is what it is. But you can find my work on Belly Up Sports. On New Year's Eve, I did a little write-up on Mike Tomlin, just kind of, denouncing the people, saying that he should be fired from the organization. So, some Mike Tomlin propaganda. If you want to find that, you can find it on Belly Up Sports, Rev Coca. You can find my work there. And thanks for having me once again.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really appreciate it. And maybe we can, I'm hoping to do a couple more in the playoffs here, but we'll see what happens there with it. Jimmy, of course, Far Into the Bench podcast, one of my favorites going out there. You guys did a great pod this last week. What do you got going on?
We're obviously going to touch on this national championship game. Like I said, I'm 0-3 in our annual college bowl pick'em show. It came down. I picked TCU to beat Michigan. My brother picked Georgia to win the national championship. He won. But we do have – I will give this little teaser out. We've been having our season-long NFL pick'em. And last week, if you hadn't gotten a chance to listen, Nico is behind me by 2 games. So I purposely picked opposite of him for the last 2 games, and I picked like the underdog upsets. I haven't gone through it to see, so we're all going to find out when you guys listen to the new pod on Thursday. But there's a chance that I won the first of our NFL pick'em in the 3 years that we've done this show. So, and if we tied, if I went 1-1 on those games, we're going to do a putt-putt match to settle who won and figure out what the punishment is going to be. Yeah, because he made me golf. There's a video. Check out our YouTube, The Far End of the Bench. There's a video of me golfing in bright pink shorts. Happy Gilmore said golf requires 2 things: goofy pants and a fat ass. And I had both of them that day. So we're gonna do putt if we ended up tying. But at FEOTB Pod, all of our social medias, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we are both on the Variety Sports Network and any other podcasting platform that you can think of every Thursday.
You gotta check them out. They do a great job over there. Far the that movie just makes me think of somebody. I got his damn eye. Well, your fingers hurt. You got landscaping duty. And then that movie just has so many one-liners. I love it so much.
You will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep.
Exactly. Just wonderful in that regard. All right. With that said, I got Jimmy, I got Rev, I got Brian, I got Josh. We're here with an hour and a half here. Guys, thanks again for joining me on Talking the Gridiron. Jimmy, hopefully maybe we'll do maybe a playoff preview at some point during the thing here. But till then, gentlemen, we'll see you next time. Later. Peace.
Later.